think that's about where I jump in, right? Chad, you're not going to say anything? Chad.
Come on, Chad, speak up.
Chad, come on, man.
Hey, Chad.
All right, I guess I'll do the plugs. I'll do them. Chad, you sit out this time. Oh, getting cut off just like Chad is. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Last Week Out podcast.
Yeah.
This week, Chad's not with us, so we're going to have a good time. Let me do some sponsors. The music, Devin, an original sponsor. Appreciate the music. We would like more beats from you. Keep sending them. We're going to clip and change things up. Our art and flyers, that was Sissy Art who made those. And our sponsor is Butt Out. Butt Out.
ButtOutE6.com.
That's right. They have all of your vape needs. They have your hardware, your coils that you put vape liquid on, because I vape also.
You can buy memes there.
You don't sound
Somebody
like you
said.
vape.
Yeah.
That was the most I don't vape statement ever.
Good big butt.
You can buy NOSes there. But here's the great thing.
Only at the store, though. We don't mail those.
Well, I mean, maybe try. So if you put Last Week Out and as a promo code in your order, you'll get 20% off. It's an amazing deal. Please, please, please try it out. If you vape, please go to Butt Out. And when you check out, use promo code Last Week Out.
You know, if you spent $5,000 on vape juice, you'd save $1,000 with that promo code.
$1,000.
You could save $1,000 at the website by
You
just
can't
entering
afford
that code.
not to buy $5,000 worth of stuff when you save $1,000.
Yeah.
I gotta get my energy up, man. I'm feeling it, missing Chad. But we did bring on a guest who's gonna help me with
Maybe
that.
if you had a Perrier of your own, you'd have some
That's
extra
true.
energy.
Our guest brought Perrier, and he was expecting hair and makeup here, and we expected him to bring us Perriers. So
You both were let down.
we're even.
Yeah.
I guess I'll do introductions. I'm Anthony Tatum. I'm here. I'm going to help facilitate this combo, and our mixing and mastering and editing and everything that goes on besides this conversation is our very own David Slack.
Come drunk.
Buddy.
He is by far the most important person on this podcast.
Don't be a bitch.
And our guest this week, man, I'm happy to have you here,
Happy to be here.
is a close friend of ours, Tanner Barbosa. Man, we've been trying to pin you down for how long we've been doing this thing? This is episode 21, right?
Yes, might be 22 actually. There was a lost episode somewhere in there that we're not sure if is ever going to surface or not.
Yeah, last week, you know what? It's late again. Right now it's Sunday night. It's
11:30.
11:30.
Our clock says 4:20, but
Our clock is stuck at 4:20 because we're fun. But we're going to get this episode in. But last week we filmed an episode, and who knows? Maybe you guys will get it later. Who knows?
maybe it'll be an April Fool's episode. Who
That's
knows?
it's a pretty good one.
It's a long time away. But I asked Chad if we should have Tanner on. He said,
This guy's a fucking bitch, dude.
I'm happy we have clips of Chad just to bring his energy. No, honestly, thank you for coming, man. And you know, me and you were talking a little bit before it because there's a lot of ground we can cover.
There is.
You know, Tanner is a man that I've met in the last year. He comes with a little bit of baggage. So does all of us, though, don't we?
Red flaggage.
A little red flaggage. But since I've known Tanner, he's been nothing but a good friend to me. And so I would kind of want to cover a little bit about what's gone on with you in the years that you've been involved with the recovery community.
Of course.
But first and foremost, I want to hear a little bit about you. I know you're from Missouri.
I am from St. Joseph, Missouri.
Okay, where's that?
So St. Joseph, Missouri is about 35 miles north of Kansas City.
Okay.
KC.
It's a pretty small town. I mean, it's relatively small. It's like big enough to be a city, not big enough to be a metropolitan, about 80,000 people or so.
Got it. Are you an only child?
I was so I have a lot of only child symptoms.
I was until my siblings got born.
Yeah. So I was an only child until I was 13.
Yeah.
I'm the only child that my mom and dad had together. My dad doesn't have any more kids.
Okay.
But my mom had a boy, so my brother Beckett, whenever I was 13, and then she had a daughter, my sister Sophie, whenever I was 16. So, but by that time I was like
Already out, checked out of the house already.
Pretty much.
So,
he had a viral video go about the difference of staying 1 day, 2 days, and 3 days in St. Joe.
Was that
I did.
I remember that. I remember
Little
that.
Vine clip.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Okay, so was your dad and mom, how long were they together while you were around?
Like 8 weeks, so like 2 months.
And then dad left.
No, so I've always been fortunate to grow up with both parents. So my mom and dad were very young, met in college. My dad was 20 and my mom was 19 when I was born. And then, they didn't last a whole very long time after I was born. They split up. But I've always gone with my dad just as much as my mom.
No kidding.
Yeah. So
did they do that outside of court, like kind of just split it up 3 and 4 and then like offset it? How'd that work?
Yeah, so I think when I was like first born, they may have went to court just for like the child support side of things, but I don't, and they may have figured out days, but I know that we didn't really venture too far from that for the first 11 or 12 years, and then as problems started to arise as I got older, then I would have like hiatuses from one house to the other for a couple weeks, and then
were they pretty amicable? Like, when did you realize like, oh, my mom and dad did they get along, or was there a time where you realized like?
So first, it's worth mentioning my parents are completely different. My parents are like polar opposites. Like how they managed to meet and have a baby is beyond me because they're two completely different people.
I could tell you how that happened. If you want to know.
Sex.
We'll talk after.
But no, yeah. So like I always knew that my parents didn't agree with each other on things, but my parents both did a very, very good job of never speaking too poorly about each other.
That's
like
awesome.
there was things that my mom would do that would annoy my dad, and I could tell. And vice versa. There was things that my dad would do that would annoy my mom, and my mom would, vent. But it was never like, "Oh, your dad this," and "Oh, your dad that," or "Oh, your mom this," and "Oh, your mom." It was never. I never really experienced that growing up, which I'm very fortunate for.
No, that is lucky. There's a lot of people who didn't have that experience with separate households. And so for you even alluded to 11, 12, you started having a little bit of issues. Was that just with you?
Because everything was gay when we were 12.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It was a little bit before, baby. I started. I had issues from a pretty young age.
Like what?
Just like self-worth issues and the common thread amongst people like us, like not feeling good enough, not being okay alone, never really feeling fully fulfilled or satisfied. Like I can date back to being like 9 or 10 years old and like sitting in my bed and just because I had some like behavioral issues and stuff like that, and just thinking like I'm just a bad kid. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna be good tomorrow.
Man.
Yeah.
See, when I was a kid, I thought I was popular. I thought I was pretty cool.
Oh, I was.
Yeah. Well, but even when I went home alone, I was like, oh man,
I'm the shit.
That kind of bleeds out in my life now today. It makes me pretty confident. Like anytime I sit in an interview, I'm like, you'd be lucky to have me.
Yeah, I know. I get that. I get that.
But for you, young age, just having some self-worth issues.
So I've always had a very weird sense of self-worth. So I've always felt like I thought about doing like a stand-up special and calling like the coolest piece of shit I know, because like that's kind of like my idea of myself is like I think I'm cool as shit. Like I think I'm super cool. Okay. And I've always been witty, you know what I mean? I've always kind of had that ability to fire back and amuse, my mom's friends, my dad's friends, things like that. But at the same time, like I really think I'm a dirtbag.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
have since I was a
Underneath
kid. Like even before because like you guys know, and like a lot of viewers probably know, like I have done a lot of dirtbag shit. But like even before that dirtbag shit, I was a dirtbag in my mind. You know?
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding, man. All right. And so even when you say deflect with humor, you know, I wanted to kind of, you know, precurse this conversation with saying, like, you being a close friend of mine, and we always have a lot of laughs, and I lean into humor a lot too. Even in hard times, I believe in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But for us, we're going to try and do our best to stay out of this during. We don't need to have like a completely somber podcast. But for me, I think that in order for us to get down to sort of the place I want this to go, I'm going to do my best to keep us out of just like, even when you say like the word dirtbag, you know what I mean? It's like when you were a kid, were you feeling like suicidal, or were you just feeling
so
like,
I mean, I went that came a little bit later on in like preteen era, like 12, 11 years old. But yeah,
no kidding.
Yeah.
Were you on meds when you were a kid?
Yeah. So that's a big contributing factor in my mind. With my parents being younger, and I'm 26. So I was born in 93, and I came up in the like ADHD era and like the early signs of psychosis era and the untreated bipolar era, like when that was like everybody, and I don't have enough letters behind my name to tell you whether like that stuff's true or not,
Right.
But I took a lot of medications as a kid.
Yeah.
And
an adult.
yeah, no, I guess a little different kind of medications there, Dave. But so I got put on. I don't know if you guys are like familiar with like Vyvanse. Vyvanse now today. Presently, Vyvanse is a stimulant. It's like a replacement for Adderall for kids that have been on Adderall their whole lives, and it's not strong enough anymore. So it's like Vyvanse is mostly for adults now. Like you can't. It'd be very hard to find a prescribing doctor to give you Vyvanse under the age of 18.
Yeah, I think it's nuts, man. Like, I don't mean to push my dogma on people, but giving kids Adderall, like,
Here comes alt-right Anthony.
Here he comes. But I think this is more of a left-leaning perspective. I'm worried about the people here. Is like, when you put kids on this stuff, I mean, it's speed,
Yeah.
man.
So what I was getting at is I was part of the Vyvanse trials when I was a kid. So I got put on 50 milligrams of Vyvanse, which is a lot, when I was like 12 years old.
Yeah.
And I took that for years and years and years.
Okay.
And it was, and then I took like medicine at night for like psychosis and bipolar that like just knocked me out. So it was like a constant up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down every day. So.
Okay. So then what did 15, 16, 17 look like for you?
Real quick, I know we're trying to
No, it's all good.
keep it somber, but he did promise me that he would bring up a story from that age.
What is that?
Oh, God.
Oh, the butt rubbing story. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Is that what we want to
Yeah.
do right now? Okay, yeah.
I feel-
Just to give you guys a taste of some of the fun that we have here. Tanner told me this story. We were actually in the car, and I listen.
And he was like, "Don't tell anyone."
Well,
this
No,
story."
I don't care.
He
You guys
told
know.
everybody.
Yeah. I like the attention.
So me and Tanner were talking a little bit about some of the things that you've been through, and I'm vanilla. You know that about me. I'm
Plain
vanilla.
He's not even.
No, I'm French vanilla.
No, you're not
dude.
even French vanilla. You're like no flavor yogurt, baby. Just nothing.
Just
You put
sustenance. Just
granola in
sustenance.
this thing.
You
though,
need
dude.
to. You got it, dude. You got to give it something.
But we were talking because I did. I mean, I had a tendency to. I was pretty provocative when I was younger, man. I was fun, I was
can't
wild,
imagine that.
dude. I was getting wild out
you were
there.
showing your shoulders when you were a child. Is
Yeah,
that?
I wore tank tops when I was younger, dude.
He saw a boob on TV once.
I have. I remember in the movie Species, I saw boobs, so I watched that a couple times.
I just can't stop thinking about you as a provocative child.
I was
provocative.
a fun boy.
Mm-hmm.
But you would tell me a couple of stories of the things that you've been through, and we don't necessarily have time to dive into all of that.
Yeah.
But you were telling me when you were a kid about you and one of your friends. Tell me that story.
So, when I was a kid, I want to say I was probably 9 or 10 years old.
So young.
So young. I think a lot of kids, and maybe not you, man, but like a lot of guys do weird stuff with their friends when they're younger, And
I'll go as deep as you'll let me.
Oh yeah.
I think it's worth mentioning that when I was a child, my first exposure to pornography was transsexual porn. So in my defense, I thought that girls had penises too. So I was just practicing.
You didn't know what was going on down there.
I didn't. So, dude, there's only so many things you do as, we're not just having full on gay sex at 9 or 10 years old.
Well, you don't got the drive for that.
Yeah. So I had a homie that we had done some weird things together, and you start running out of things at some point,
Well, when you say weird things, like you guys were like kind of copying what you'd seen on the.
Well, that's porn. The thing is like no, because like we really hadn't seen a whole bunch, and like most of the stuff that I had seen was like at this point. Was like male and female stuff. So it's like, no, I didn't really know what we were doing, but you do what you think you're supposed to do. It's like, you don't really have to see anybody jack off in the shower for the first time to jack off in the shower for the first time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we would like touch each other's wieners and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, by the end of it, we were like out of things to do. So we were just making stuff up.
Yeah.
Rubbing our butt cheeks together.
Oh, I love that, dude.
Kissing each other's butt cheeks and stuff.
Well, no, you told me the best part of this story was
I got over it.
Yeah, you were done with it.
I was over it, man. We had done everything, and I had this buddy, and he was very popular. And the fact that like he spent the night at my house a lot made me like popular by proxy.
Yeah.
So and here's the thing about this kid too is that he never stayed the night. He would always freak out at like 3 a.m, and his parents would have to come get him.
Because you're over there kissing his butt cheeks.
Yeah. But no, that's what like
I
even
call my
before
mom
that,
too.
Even before we rubbed
even
butts.
before the rubbins. No, this one time I was like, yeah, man, I'm like kind of done with this. I don't think I'm gonna do it anymore. And he's like, I'll go home right now. And I was like, okay. I'll kiss your butt.
I'll kiss your butt. Bring it over here.
Let's rub butts right
look
now.
At man. I don't know how long we fell into it. Like David, you asked for it, man, and I laugh, man, because I relate. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to laugh to just say it's like, man, the fucked up trauma that we've put ourselves through. But I do think that some of that is childhood progression, like natural progression. Mm-hmm. But some of it when it leads into, especially the story that you've told me later in your life, that some of the stuff that you've put yourself into, and not to label one thing as deviancy and another thing as not, but the things you were doing, were hard on you. You know what I mean? And when you talk about it where it's like, fuck, man, it doesn't sound like what you want to be doing. So 15, 16, 17, what does that look like?
So I spent a lot of time in either behavioral correctional facilities, so like juvie, or mental
oh, no
facility.
kidding.
Yeah, I mean, from the ages of 12 to 17, I guess I left the first time when I was 16. So from the ages of 12 to 16, I would say that I spent about 60% of that in some sort of
just back and forth.
Either alternative school or some sort of institution. Yeah. And that was like kind of another like kind of ethos of my parents when I was younger, is like, we're young. And I don't blame, I look now and I don't blame them for this, but it's like, we're young, he's crazy. And so in Missouri, there's a charge called ungovernable. You can get it at school, you can get it at home. And it essentially just means like what it sounds like. It's like nobody can govern you. You're just wild. And I think that term fits me pretty well. But I got that, it's a charge. And I got that charge, I think there was 47 of them expunged off my record at the time I turned 17.
Oh my God.
And like, it's an arrestable offense. So they would come pick you up and then take you to jail.
So they'd like petition you.
Yeah, the Juvenile Assessment Center. And then from there, they would decide if it was more like behavioral mental health, and they would like put you over to Crittenton, or if it was like behavioral like law stuff, they would put you in Buchanan County Academy, which I spent quite a bit of time at Buchanan County Academy as well, which is like a militant style, like residential.
Do you think during all of that you were just getting worse?
That's the thing. Yes, because I met, so as I'm, and I'll say this, and I'm sure a lot of people probably know already, but like I'm a heroin addict.
Right.
And I was doing opiates and heroin before, well, not heroin yet, but opiates before I went into Buchanan County Academy the last time. I didn't meet people that shot up until Buchanan County Academy, and I shot up for my first time like 3 days out of.
So a place
PCA.
like that kind of expedited your
it's like prison
process.
Like you go to prison, evading taxes, and you come out a bank robber.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So what happens? Do you get what is it called when you emancipate? What do you say? 16, you left? Or you just leave? You just run away?
Yeah. So in the state of Missouri, 17, you're an adult.
Okay.
16, I was out probably 80% of the year, either on the run. I would run away a lot.
Yeah.
Like to the point where like the police in my hometown, when my mom would report me as a runaway, would be like, if he's not back in 5 days, then we'll report him as a runaway, which is like against protocol.
Hold their hand over the phone. Like, anyone seen Tanner?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, is he in one of those cages in the back?
Yeah, because like I said, it's not a huge town. It's a large town, but it's like big enough to where you can get in a lot of trouble, but small enough to where everybody knows your business. And like every police officer and my family's also pretty prominent in my hometown. My great grandfather started a chain of restaurants that are pretty successful and was like sat on like a couple boards in the city and stuff. So my family, and it's large. I come from a large Mexican family, so everybody knew the Barbosas and everybody knew who I was, like all the police officers. So to answer your question, 16, I was out most of the year. I came back, and that's kind of been my ethos, my MO, is like I will do really bad and then do really well. Like when I do well, there's no in between. Like this last time that I was in treatment, I had this counselor, Fletcher, and he was a really cool guy, and he's like, guys like you and I, Tanner, it's like we either die or we take over the world. You know what I mean? Like you're either. You know
what? I get that vibe from you, man. I think that we're gonna have to bring that back up, because for you it does feel like that.
Yeah.
Like to me it does. It's like you have a hard time just being average.
Yeah. No, I don't play it. I don't do average. It's hard.
Yeah, you're not a face in the crowd.
It's something that I've been working on.
Yeah.
Especially coming from, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this a little later, but like coming from like a pretty strong entrepreneurial background, starting businesses when I, was 19.
Yeah, where the hell, but like, so lead me into that. Like, why and when do you start to have this structure? Like, is it because of your grandfather or people like that? Like, so how do you turn this misconduct into a business?
Yeah, so my dad is very, very sales and business oriented, and as is my mom. That's one thing that they do they do reflect. You know, my mom has always, since I was young, started these like pop-up businesses where she would make like for instance, like we made I don't know if you guys remember when those like they're like really long necklaces and you wrap them twice. Girls wore them. They would be wrapped twice and they would have like one and then another. Like when that first came into the scene, my mom, myself, and my stepdad's sister started a company making those and selling them. And my mom was like the face of the company, as she always is, because she's like a hometown celebrity.
Oh, you are a product of your mother.
Oh, I know.
I've met your mother.
Yeah, she's like I always say she's like a PG-13 version of me.
She is. Yeah. That's perfect. Yeah. Maybe even, isn't there another one between 13 and R?
No, there's NC.
PG and
there's PG, PG-13, R, NC-17. So I'm NC-17. R would be in the middle of me and my mom. My mom's PG-13.
What does NC-17
It means sex, baby. It's bad.
That's going to happen.
It's bad.
There. Okay,
it's bad. It's a lot of F words. There's like the FCC, I think, like limits the amount of F words you can say in each one, and I'm pretty sure NC-17 is unlimited.
Oh, carte blanche.
Because even in PG-13 films, you can say.
That's like one of Chad's podcasts.
Yeah, NC-17.
NC-17.
Yeah.
We're NC-17. We don't mean to be. I don't want to be. Chad makes us. First 6 minutes, and then we're NC-17 before you knew it. Then I'm just over here trying to crank the wheel back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trying to get us back to that rated R version.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Trying to get us back to that Seth Rogen, baby.
That's what just something sweet. You know, something you can take home to mom. Maybe.
I feel like shit.
So you kind of had that ingrained in you as that business venture.
Yeah, and growing up, like you always take those tests in school, like what your ideal job should be. You know what I mean? And like across the board in public school, in Catholic school, in high school, and middle school, they've always said sales and entrepreneurship for me. They've always said that. So I just had that ingrained in my mind that like okay, this is what I'm going to do. You know, I'm either going to do, because I did sales from a young age. I worked in phone rooms. And so I knew that I had the ability to sell, but it's like I got tired of selling somebody else's product.
Yeah.
So I just knew that I just needed to wait and find that industry trend like my mom would do. You know, she did the necklaces, and then she did bows, and then it's just like she always finds, she did LuLaRoe when it came out. So she always finds these like industry trends, and I just knew that that's what I needed to do was just wait.
Yeah, you're a quick starter, dude.
I am. Quick
You
start,
just
no
jump.
follow through.
Yeah,
dude.
no follow through,
No
no
follow
fact
through.
finding.
No fact finding.
Papa's ready to go.
I'm ready to go.
Right
Let's make
away.
it. Yeah.
You didn't dip your toe in the pool at all.
I just-
Me, I did my toe in. I come
I
back.
did a 360 front flip, dude.
Yeah.
With my butt showing.
Dip your buns in. Buns first.
Buns first, right? Yeah. So you picked that up, and that's what you said we'd come back to. But at what point did it start to get just like
Serious?
awful?
For what do you mean, like?
Just whatever. Like, because for me, when I listen, because I look at your story and what you're talking about, you're in and out at 16, and then at 17, you're out of the house. You know. And how old are you now?
Okay.
What are
So
you,
before
25 now?
26. I'll be 27 in
26.
March.
Okay.
So that's why I was asking, because it's gotten, like I said, it's gotten. I didn't know which awful you were referencing. So
yeah.
before,
Which
so the
one?
awful before the greatness. So I lost my best friend. So growing up, and I definitely want to talk about all three of these people at some point in time. So it's like growing up, there was myself, my friend Christopher, and then my friend Eric, and we were like the Three Musketeers. Like we did everything together. And when I was 17,
Did you guys go to juvie together at all?
me and Eric did.
See,
Chris
whoa.
always managed to stay out of trouble, which is ridiculous because he was the worst one of us all.
He just stayed off paper,
Dude,
man.
he did.
Some people do.
One time I'll make this quick. One time as a grown man, he beat up a child and still managed to stay out of trouble. Dude. So, like I steal a beanie
I
from
know,
Kmart, and I'm
an
like
airhead
locked
from
up.
Circle K, and I'm doing hard time.
Yeah, dude, he like beat a child up, choked him out. Anyway, so and not to get too somber, but it's my friend Eric was pretty heavy alcoholic. We all were drug addicts and alcoholics. Eric primarily alcohol, and he got into a drunk driving accident driving on these back roads in Riverside Road in my hometown. It's like these jumpy roads, and he had this little Cavalier, and we used to do what we call go out and jump shit, and we just go jump these like little hills. And he went out there one night, just him and this other guy, this older guy that's kind of started hanging out in our friend group that none of us really liked because he was shady, and he got Eric to do weird bad things like meth, and they went out one night intoxicated. They were jumping shit and didn't come back, and that fucked me up really bad, man.
So they crashed.
Yeah, they crashed, and he died. And dude, I lost it. That was like my best friend. I was working at a call center at the time illegally, and I stopped going to work. This has been one of the only things that's ever done this for me, but it's like, and I'm sure, I don't know how much you've divulged with your own stuff, but like I said, I'm a heroin addict. I stopped doing opiates. Because not because like I didn't, I thought I was like, oh, I need to like change my life. It's like, I stopped doing opiates because I couldn't get out of bed to go get opiates. Right. I didn't have the drive to even cop, you know what I mean? And so I started, I went back to my mom's house. I started living in her basement. I was basically killing myself with like air duster and triple C's in her basement. And the only reason I was doing those is because I could steal her car at night, drive up to Walmart, steal them, and then drive back and have it all done in 10 minutes, know? And that was like as far as I could go as far as like energy, to do anything or drive.
Yeah, messy boy.
So on a little bit after Christmas, because I showed up to Christmas loaded, and my mom was like worried about me because naturally I started doing opiates again, a month or two later. And so I show up to Christmas all messed up, and my parents and my mom's side of the family made this plan. So like a few days after Christmas, they were like, "You're going to treatment." So I did, and that was the beginning of the rest of my life, essentially.
Right.
That's where I got introduced to the Fellowship of Recovery, and that's where I started to really actually thrive for some time.
All right, we're taking a break there. That's perfect, dude. That's perfect. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're going to take a quick break. Tanner just got into treatment. What a miracle. I'm pretty sure he stays sober forever after that. And that's the end of the podcast. No, we'll be right back, guys.
Good evening, my friends. It's Commander Cutie, Mr. Chudsy Wubsy from the Last Week Out podcast, and we've got some exciting news for y'all. Over here at the Last Week Out podcast, we are produced by Slack Media LLC, and they have a special promotion going on right now. If you are a two-legged Homo sapien or a millennial who just had a meaningful conversation and have the urge to put it on the internet, we're just the people for the job. We record, edit, and update and post. Update and post. What the fuck is update? Why did I say update?
You can update stuff.
I guess you can update stuff. Listen, dude, you want to fucking do a podcast? Guess what? We're the ones that can do it for you. We can edit, mix, master, and produce the whole thing, and we can help you figure out, do you know what an RSS feed is? Because I sure didn't when I started this, but because of Slack Media, now I do. So if you have a podcast and you want to get it started and you want to skip all the difficult stuff, go ahead and email slackmediallc@gmail.com or you can god damn it, dude. Or you can slide in our DMs at the Last Week Out on Instagram. Get on in there. Love you. Bye.
All right, we're back.
And we back. Can we back?
Oh,
Can we
yeah.
back? Can we back? Can
Okay.
we back?
Chance the Rapper.
Shout out. Sponsorship by Chance the Rapper.
Yeah, we're actually sponsored by White Claw.
Yeah. Oh.
We're going to
Down
get the
with
logo
claws.
thrown up there.
It's actually just going to say there ain't no law when you're drinking the claw.
That's right.
Who's that wild rapper I just found the other day that's been around forever, just
Riff Raff,
destroying?
dude.
No.
Oh, I love
The other
Riff
dude
Raff.
that you're like, check out this video.
What is it?
And
What are
you
you
showed
talking
me
about?
this like horrible video of people like spitting up blood and drinking.
Oh, Earl
weed.
Sweatshirt. Yeah. No.
Oh, dude,
So
he's tight.
Yeah, David's always way behind with rap
hip-hop,
music.
yeah.
With rap music.
Well, the fact that you just called it hip hop lets us know why.
Yeah, hip hop.
Sorry.
You know, the hip, the hop.
The hippity hop hop.
And so David the other day was like, "Have you guys listened to Tyler the Creator?" We're like, "Yeah, dude."
He's
we've
like,
heard
y'all know
that."
Bone Thugs?
Yeah, have you guys ever listened to D
Whatever.
Cypress Hill?
C. Leach came to my defense. He's like, you know what? That's actually kind of cool because you get to like hear all their stuff all at once instead
He was
of
being nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's just
well,
trying to be
because he's
nice
a
to
nice
you.
fucking guy.
He is a nice
We're
guy.
not.
No, and that's
why you hang out with
You
us.
should act that way in public and with people. I believe in being
be a
civil. Yeah, don't be a bitch.
Don't be a
But in
bitch.
the next breath, it's funny that you have such a little knowledge of what's going on in the hip hop community.
I wish I had friends that would take the time to educate me, but
We
Well, you
try.
don't. You don't.
We try.
I still am unclear of the difference
Yeah,
between
Jeezy and
G-Eazy and
Jeezy,
Jeezy,
yes, I
and
know.
you've really never made it
We've
clear.
shown you pictures
before.
No, okay, it's gloves off with Tanner Barbosa because that's what the people want, man. People want to
Give
know.
the people what
so,
they want.
So let me tell you a little bit about your reputation, and I want you to get into sort of how we got here, and tell me a little bit because when I think of you, you've covered it well, man. Like I think that obviously most of us who have a drug history, there's a little bit of turmoil in the household. It doesn't have to be a terrible household, but a little bit there. But you have like a proclivity sort of for, like you were saying, is salesman and pitcher and quick starter, and that's you in my mind, and I think you hit the ball out of the park when you said you have a problem with being average, and I get that. Like I couldn't imagine going with you somewhere and you just me being like, oh, I forgot Tanner was there. Oh,
Yeah,
Tanner went with us? I forgot
Yeah,
that.
try to embarrass them at a store.
Oh, I've tried. We were at
It doesn't work.
we were somewhere the other day. I said, "Hey, this is this is a date with me and my boyfriend. Tanner took it way over.
I said,
the
yeah,
top.
we're having sex tonight, baby.
I immediately regretted it because I knew he was just gonna just play that thing all the way out. But I think it speaks a lot to kind of, who you are now, and the perception of you, because I know that you got yourself into a couple of things, in the community, and I don't want to use too much jargon, but, there was the patient brokering running, and then just any of these little hustles, which for me I've always told you, it's an endearing quality that I find in people where they have drive.
Yeah.
And I think as I've gotten, and that was me, when I was younger, I found little hustles, man. Little fucking hustles, little cons. I was selling all the hemp necklaces at school, whatever it was.
Is that a new rapper, a Little Hustle?
Yeah, little hemp necklace.
Little hemp
Little
necklace, baby.
Ooh, sounds good.
But I know as I've gotten older, it's really important to me that, the people's perception is something I take into consideration, and then just, having good guidance and good people around me to kind of let me know when my primary purpose is deviated, whatever it is. And so when I've talked to you, there's been times where you're telling me about your thought life or why you're making a certain decision, and I got to be like, whoa,
chill
dude,
out.
whoa,
Pump the brakes, Daddy Bear.
pump them all the way, lock them.
Yeah.
And so you were saying, and you went to treatment when you were about 18 years old.
19, turned 19, yeah.
Your buddy passed away, and you go to treatment, and you get introduced to this lifestyle, right? And when I say this lifestyle, I'm talking about the fellowship and the community of recovery, whether it's 12-step and that's probably what you found, huh?
Yeah.
12-step recovery. And so you found it.
And
What
I
do
was
you
like,
think of it?
I got sober in Prescott. Which for those of you guys that don't know, there's a very now it's dwindling, but there was a very, very strong presence of recovery in Prescott.
Absolutely.
From when I was there in 2012, 2013 to 2014, and I kind of it was kind of like the book talks about. It's like I felt like I had arrived. You know what I mean? Like
You met some people that thought like
man,
you,
and like I'll touch quickly on it. It's like I going through treatment, I was pretty sheltered. I went to I got kicked out of the first place that I went, which was like a pretty open place where you could walk around town, but I was only there for 28 days. They kicked me out. And I went to like a higher level of care, and I was there for 3 months. And so during that time I was pretty sheltered. So it's like I saw some meetings, and I saw kids my age, but I was kind of convinced that they were just faking it. So I didn't really think that kids our age stayed sober long term. Like I saw people like, I'm 19. I saw people like 26, almost 30, 27, 28, 29, 30. I'm like, okay, maybe then,
Yeah.
So then I went to this convention of young people, and like prior to that, I was going back to Missouri. I had my dope dealer gonna meet me at the airport, and I was like full send, ready to get high again, and that convention like changed my life. And then so what I ended up doing is I went back, and rather than getting high for the going to Missouri and living there and getting high, I stayed for a month. I got the cheapest flight I could back, which was a month out, and I spent a month doing amends, making amends to my family, and clearing out some of the wreckage of the past. And I just went full send into this like young sober dude, and like that's what I decided.
How long did that last?
So I stayed sober for 2.5 years.
That's a long time.
Decent. Haven't been able to get back there yet. And
How was your recovery then?
For the first bit of it very strong.
Yeah.
And then I did as we do, and I start to let things kind of take over. I started a business at a pretty young age. I started a vape juice company, and that progressively got very large just because of the era that I was in. I kind of
Struck while the iron was hot.
Yeah, it was that industry trend that I was talking about earlier. I hit it, and I hit it right. I was right on top of the wave, and I rode it hard. And so I got to the point where I'm like in this super unhealthy relationship with this girl that can't stay sober for longer than 90 days, and so I'm constantly cleaning up after her, and I'm not really having to look too much at myself, and I'm making all this money, so that's not like really, an issue as far, so, but it's like, so when you take away those things that would normally, make you reflect and look at yourself, it's like, it's the devil's playground, man. I started to fall into some like really shitty behavior, and kind of dive into some of my other secondary addictions, and got bad. I couldn't take it anymore. I got high. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, for me, when I kind of talk to you about that stuff, I mean, it's hard for me, man, to when you start telling me stuff, because when I've talked to you about your recovery and like when I look at you now, I think there's these certain areas that you have that are sacred. And what I mean by that is, like, I've seen you with your daughter, and you're a good dad.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. And you care about her, and you're polite, and you know what I mean? And you're teaching her good principles and all those things. And there's these times where you decompensate into and so do I, you know what I mean? And I know that, you have all of this training and all of this knowledge of recovery, and it's kind of like, when I look at you, it's like, sometimes I feel like you're playing tennis, between like the man that you're supposed to be when you're 30, and the guy that, you know what I mean, and it's kind of like
stuff at 21. No, it's true. It's absolutely true.
What was it? I didn't even hear the drop.
And I wrote it hard.
Yeah, you wrote that.
I wrote it hard. No, absolutely. And that's the thing, is like, this time coming back, and I attribute a lot of what I've found that works for me, to meeting David. Honestly, I came back. I had moved to a different side of town, so I was kind of excluded from, and a lot of it was due to my past transgressions, but I was kind of excluded from the East Valley. And rightfully so. And so I knew that if I was going to survive, I needed to find a new fellowship, and I needed to find what worked for me. So it's like, I found, I hit up David because I had seen him around, and I wrote it hard.
And you wrote
I wrote David hard. But yeah, and I've found these areas of like service and things like that have allowed me to kind of try and be, allowed me to be like that dad and that thing that you're, that stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, so you were back and forth 2.5 years, like you said. A lot of the time for people in recovery, and this doesn't just mean, because I work with people who are recovering from anxiety and depression and self-harm and all these things that people recover from. And what I'll see is, the way that we decompensate is just like, we kind of put down those coping skills that we've learned, whether they're starting your day properly, and then we stop with our fellowship. We start cutting off ties, right? And then before we know it, we're right back where we started. And you kind of said that's kind of what happened with you. And then it was what? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth?
In and out for a number of years. I drank like a gentleman for a number of months, and then that slowly turned into not drinking like a gentleman. But I hold on to that idea that I can, because I did, even though I know that I can't. But yeah, and that's one of the things. It's like, I do the back and forth, but today I have learned and have a pretty good understanding of what those signs are. And it's like, I've got about 3 or 4 of them, you know what I mean? And once I start to notice like 2 that are taking place, I'm like, oh, okay, time to turn this around. Right. And I know that's not like the healthiest way to look at things, but whereas like before, like I'm full-fledged, like acting out in all my other addictions. I'm not waking up in the morning and praying. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And then it's like, I'm like baffled when I get loaded. It's like,
how did this happen?
What?
Well, and for you, it's like, how are you okay with not jumping into the next big money grab?
Yeah. I mean, for me, a lot of it comes with, I've always placed myself in a position in my friendships and my relationships where that's my role. Like where I do like spontaneous stuff, like take all my friends to Disneyland at midnight, you know what I mean? And we drive to California and hit Disneyland as soon as it opens up. Or like, or I take on these girlfriends that have no jobs and no aspirations, and like I have to pay for everything. So it's like I have to be in that money grab, you know? Whereas today it's like, you know, you guys are my best friends, and it's like you guys don't expect anything monetarily from me. And you know, I'm with Hannah now, and you know, I'm super grateful for that relationship, because it's like she's got her shit figured out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like she doesn't like need me to be Mr. Moneybags. You know what I mean? Like I can just do what you know, works for me. And then it's like when I wrote it hard. It's like when I started at the last place that I was at, you know, I started in a position where I was not making a lot of money, and I came to Hannah and like with this like fear and insecurity, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be making like shit for money, you know? She's like, that's fine. Like that's what you need right now.
Yeah.
You know, and it was exactly what I needed. And, you know, it progressed into a position, you know, in administration. And, you know, I wrote it hard for a little bit there too. And that was exactly what I needed. I wrote it hard.
You know what's funny, dude? Until we were sitting here talking, I was thinking about like my perception of you, and then thinking about, you know, what you've gone through, and right now you're working in roofing, and that industry's got a really bad tag on it.
It does. It does.
What are you doing? Are you doing some illegal shit?
No. So, and that's the thing that I think, and that's the thing that I was very transparent about my employer with when I came in. I was like, you know, I already have a really bad name, as far as like the patient brokering and you know, just all this, you know, sex scandals and all this shit. Like I need to be sure that this is legit, you know, if, just tell me straight up.
You know what? Let's hold on. Before we even get into that, let's talk about, because that's jargon to some people, patient brokering. Let me tell you guys what patient brokering is. So in 2012-ish, that's when I think it kind of started. Before then?
Baby, no. People were patient brokering.
That's when you heard about it.
Yeah, people were patient brokering in South Florida in like 2007.
Yeah, I mean it's been going on even with cancer and things like that. But when it was really big out
that's
here,
the good money right there.
Yeah. No, people don't talk about that enough. But what it is essentially is if a treatment center or a hospital will pay somebody for getting an admission for them, which from the outside, from the far peripheral, you'd say, well, I mean, that's what you do. I mean, if someone sends me a lead for lighting, I'll throw them some cash.
Yeah,
I appreciate the job. But where it gets,
pay a couple bucks per subscriber.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. If you guys want to find us subscribers, we'll pay you, you know, whatever. But where it gets, where it's wrong, and I'm sure this could start a bunch of debate, but where it's wrong is, people start paying more, right? Some hospitals pay more, some pay less. And this is where it gets bad. This is where it's bad for the client is we stop recommending people to the appropriate level of care.
Yeah.
We stop recommending them to
who pays the most.
Ethical places. It's whoever pays the most.
Absolutely.
And we lose our ability to properly advocate for a client because they start to believe that they are a money symbol. And I can tell you that in 2013, I had a buddy who just couldn't get in anywhere. Because that's its own problem. Mm-hmm. We can debate about that forever, but he couldn't get in anywhere. And I called Prescott. Someone had given me a phone number. I called a guy and he was like, we'll come pick him up today. Mm-hmm. You know? And I was like, what? Mm-hmm. I can't get him in anywhere. And if that person would have said, and we'll give you $1,000, I'd have been like, what?
Yeah, man.
I got 5 of them for you.
So, and that's the thing is like when I first got into the industry, and maybe this was me being naive, but it was like a full lateral move from vape juice. I thought that the FDA was going to close everything down. So I needed to find something quick that I could make as much money as I was with vape juice. And that seemed to be the answer. So when I first got into the industry, like I didn't understand that it was illegal. I didn't understand that, you know, I didn't see the nasty side of it, and this will kind of explain it a little bit further for the viewers, but it's like, you know, the final insurance check that you get paid on is normally cut after 14 days. So I didn't see the people telling kids go into treatment and stay for 14 days and then come out, I'll get you high and I'll put you in a different place.
Yeah, but towards the end.
Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so when, when I, towards the end, it's like I was getting loaded.
So it's fuck.
Yeah. So here's the thing is like, you know, I had my things that I didn't do, you know what I mean? and that was like, that kept me sleeping okay for quite some time. I didn't get people high, didn't tell people that they had to stay a certain amount of time, and I never paid a client directly. You know what I mean? So what I started to realize, though, is what you just said, is that unless I could send a client to a place that accepts referrals from no other sources, and it doesn't matter how much they pay me, I can't feel okay sending a client. What happened is I had this kid, and I won't say his name, this kid from Oklahoma, and it was a completely organic lead, came through. I was doing some lead sourcing through SEO and like stuff like that, and I had this kid that came in completely organic, not from a marketer. And for those of you that don't know, a marketer is somebody. It's kind of a pyramid thing. It's whoever gets the most money is the one that has the direct relationship with the treatment center, and then they have people under them that send clients for a lesser amount of money, and people under them and people under them.
Ooh,
so
I didn't even know about the ring.
Yeah, so I had direct contracts with every facility that I worked with for the most part.
Right.
So I would have people send me clients. So this one was completely organic, didn't come from a marketer. So that means you don't have to worry about, because I don't do those three things I was talking about. So I didn't have to worry about them. I didn't have to worry about them getting paid. I didn't have to worry about them telling me I'm only going to stay 14 days. And I didn't have to worry about them asking me to get them high.
Right.
Because those are the things that I dreaded the most, because that would just make me cut a client right there. So I was like, oh, dude, this is going to be solid. Well, this kid gets in and he stays for 14 days and I get paid, and I don't hear from him anymore. And I'm like, oh, this is weird. You know what I mean? Like, I normally like to check up with my clients, offer to pay their first month at Sober Living if they do well, get them some clothes or something like that if they came from like the streets, And and I told them all this stuff. I'm like, dude, if you do well, I'll help you out at the end. You know what I mean? I'm not going to pay you, but I'll get you on your feet. And I'll make sure that it's comfortable for you. And I didn't hear from him. And about 9 months later, I end up seeing him. He's got this pic on like Hollywood Boulevard or something like that, and he's out in California. Mind you, this is like a sweet kid from like Oklahoma, and it like genuine as can be. He got pulled out of that treatment center by somebody else that had offered him money
and just
and
throwing
him
around
high, and he had been in the ring for months and months and months, and that was like one of the final straws for me, where I was like, because I was sober again, and I was like, I can't, and I tried, dude. I tried to stay sober, and because I did it for a few months after that, but I tried to stay sober and do it, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't stay sober while placing people in treatment for money.
Yeah.
And that
just because you knew it was not good.
Yeah, and it's like for me, and I'll just totally transparent. Like, since I've done that, I've gone to treatment like 4 times myself, and I've gotten paid every time. And I started to get into this mindset that I won't go to treatment unless I get paid. Oh, so man. It's like I knew like I'll just figure it out. You know what I mean? I'll go to CBI or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like I started to realize that if I feel that way, other people feel that way, and if it's going to come down to the time where the kid hits 26, doesn't have insurance anymore, won't go to treatment because it's not worth it for him anymore. Because whereas before treatment was just getting your life back, now it's getting your life back and getting some racks. You know what I mean?
And and what I hear, and because it's so hard for me when I listen to you say stuff, because for me it's like, when it's you're talking about sending these clients in, it's like I had these rules, and I'm like, man, fuck your rules, man. You're either in or you're out with doing degenerate behavior, and for me, I kind of listen to you and I hear that stuff that you're talking about when you were younger, like you didn't feel like you fit, and then you had to have money to ball out with everybody. Mm-hmm. And even in our friendship, I've seen you it comes back to money for you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what I feel like.
No, it does. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so with that behavior, that was one thing. And then, what's been going on in the last year for you, though? Like, what's changed?
I mean, for me, the main thing is kind of like what I was touching on earlier. It's like I've jumped wholeheartedly into service. You know what I mean? Like, before, I didn't do this thing for anybody other than myself. You know what I mean? I didn't do this to give back to the newcomer. I did this because it helped me make money. Yeah. It helped me, achieve this status that I needed to feel okay with myself. Yeah, and that was it. I wrote it hard. And
what would you have told me, though, back then? You'd have told me what you're telling me now, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the same thing next year.
I fucking love it. No, but do you know why it changed?
I don't, man. I think Covey has a large part of it for me. It's a large thing, you know, like this last time, like losing custody for a little bit of time, like really showed me that like I gotta get this shit, because like if there's anything that I don't, and I think most of you guys know this about me, like I don't like, I don't think everybody says like they don't care what people think about them, but like I really, for the most part, unless it's somebody very close to me, like I don't really care what people think about me. But one thing that I won't let anybody think about me, even if they don't know, is that I'm an absent father. That's like one thing that I refuse to be.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, man. I think because, you know, my dad and I did not get along growing up at all. But as I've gotten older, I've seen how big of a role my dad was in my life. And like, no matter how hard I made it to be, my dad was still there.
Yeah.
And I've seen like, you know, some of these redeeming qualities that I have as an adult are you know, from my mom and my dad. But, you know, a lot, as boys, you know, we learn how to be a man from our father. You know what I mean? And I know that Kobe's not a boy, but it's like, I also know that it's very important. I've dated a lot of girls without dads, and I see how that turns out. You know what I mean?
Weird flex, but okay, dude.
And so
I didn't have a dad, by the way.
Well, it shows. No, I'm just kidding.
That's why I'm so strong.
That's why he's plain vanilla yogurt.
Yeah, plain vanilla.
My dad.
But no, that's why, you know, and dude, there's just like, you know, being 100% transparent, like for the longest time, and I still kind of feel like this sometimes, like, you know, I feel like I'm kind of a sociopath. Like I don't really understand. I didn't for the longest time understand what it means to love somebody.
Yeah.
I understand what it meant to like somebody or to need somebody for something and keep them around and do your best to keep them around. But like until I had my daughter, and I'll be honest, like it was not initial. You know what I mean? It took some time. Like a lot of people say, like, oh, you're waiting, and maybe for some, and I pray for people that is their experience, but that wasn't for me. It took some time. You know, I was still figuring my shit out, but it's like I can say wholeheartedly that for the first time forever, like I understand what people say when like they would die for their kids.
Yeah.
Like that's the only person in the world that like I would absolutely 100% die for if I needed to.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't think you're bullshitting me about that, man. And you know how I feel. I kind of call you out. What were you gonna say? Something, David?
I was just gonna blow up his spot. If you ever wanna get him to agree to something for real, then you have to ask him to put it on Covey.
Oh, put it on Covey.
Yeah, but you have to be careful because sometimes he'll try
that's
and
so
trick you, and he'll
fourth
be like,
grade of you.
no, he'll be like, okay, I put it on Bovey.
I'll put it on Covey.
Bovey. He'll say Bovey, not Covey. So you have to get him to spell it out.
I don't think you're. I've heard, you know, like people that are frustrated with you because of your past behavior, and it's hard, man. It's hard when you come into rooms where we have this, you know, driving force of acting right.
Yeah,
You
they're
know,
the good. They're the good heroin addicts, though.
Yeah, no,
they're the
I
good
get
type
it.
of heroin
Well,
addicts.
whatever.
That
I get it. I
yeah.
hold people accountable for their actions. You fuck me in, I might come on here and be like, dude, maybe he is a sociopath. But no, I don't think that about you. I just think, you know, from my and I haven't had a lot of experience with you, but you justify your shit usually around money. Like when I've met you, like I look at it and I'm like, man, this dude will convince himself of some fucking unethical bullshit under the guise of like, that's just business, you know, business is business.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've come to, like, as I've gotten older, is like, well, we just got to eat the brokenness now. And if you stay doing the right stuff, eventually it'll pan out. I've kind of watched that with you, and you've taken on, you know, not necessarily our primary traits, but I've got to watch you, you know, struggle with your fears of financial insecurity and continually make the right decision and trying, at least fucking trying, and talking and doing those things. So what are you hoping on next? I guess we've only got a couple of minutes, but for you, it's like we've talked about, you know, your daughter, and we've talked about where you are and what you're making decisions for, and how you vacillated back and forth. It's like, well, what now? Like, what do you got now?
You know, I mean, for me, I just I'm working every day to kind of like what we talked about, kind of learn to be just okay. You know what I mean? And that's like, that's where, you know, I see growth for me is like, and that's where I see like the future for me is like, if I can just be all right, being all right, then I'll be okay. You know,
Well, and you might be great at some stuff.
Yeah.
You just can't be great at everything, Tanner.
Yeah. Well, We'll see.
Yeah, okay. That's for the next one. What's the next business venture?
I don't know. You know, I like the roofing thing right now. It's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I came on and, you know, popped some deals right off the bat. I don't know if it's something that is, I don't know if it's my forever job. I love working in mental health. I think you know that. You know, admissions is like my forte. That's what I think I'm good at, is getting people that are on the fence as to whether they're gonna and that's what was one of the driving forces behind the patient brokering thing. Is like, even long before I knew that you could make that kind of money doing it, I always wanted to be an admissions guy.
Yeah.
I met a guy, Jason McCullough, whenever I was at Decision Point up in Prescott, and that dude just like blew my mind. You know what I mean? And I wrote it hard. And I was just like, yo, like, this guy's got it. Like, this is what I want. So, like, I could see myself getting back into that. I think I need to put a little bit more time in between, you know, my last shot at dope and now. Before.
Well, what's your main purpose right now?
Service, really. You know, I just got involved in a higher level of service. You know, I've done, like, committees and meetings and things like that, but I'm kind of trying to figure out the higher level of service side of things so that I can
Recovery service.
Correct, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Sorry, I know that's probably jargon.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. Well, dude.
And just being a good dad, dude. That's the main thing. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that's
Like,
what I want to hear.
You know, I've got my daughter back full time now. Not full time in the sense that split equal parenting time. You know, I have her 5 days a week one day, or 1 week, 2 days a week the next.
Yeah.
You know, all parenting rights restored. Her name's gonna my last name's gonna be on her birth certificate. Like
Bovie Barbosa.
Little baby. All these things that, like, I've got my license back. Like, just all this crazy shit that, like, I just thought was so far from attaining. I'm seeing that, like,
Well, what do you got to be careful of?
myself, man. I got to be careful of falling into, you know, because I can justify anything to myself. Anything.
Right. Well, how are you going to do? How are you going to?
Just staying close with you guys and checking myself. That's
Community.
Yeah, community is a big thing, man. And not just community that, like, cosigns whatever bullshit you throw at them, but, like, people that will tell you, like you said, like, yo, pump the fucking brakes, man. You're being wild right now.
Yeah.
Chill
Well, I don't
out.
mind you being wild. I just don't want, there's those core principles. And for me, because me and you have talked, like, I've got what you got when it comes to business ventures, where it's like, I see a quick buck, or even just like, Black Friday TVs. We can make $100 on each one of those. And then I'm trying to figure out how I can pull all of me and Becca's savings out to buy 15 of them, you know, whatever it is, where it's like, okay, I got to slow down, and for me, it's like, I got to be careful because that's just the way my mind works.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that, but I don't know, man. I mean, I appreciate you. You know that.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you.
We'll definitely do this again. And the next time we do it, what we're gonna do is just let you go completely unfiltered. Maybe we'll just do one with him and Chad.
Just do one with him looking at the wall,
That'd be sick.
talking.
What do you mean? Just facing that way?
Yeah, that'd be real cool. I'd like that.
You'd probably get pumped up. If we put a mirror in front of you, you'd probably talk for 3 hours.
Last night I went out to dinner and I sat across we went to what is that place? The place that does the Hot Pockets. I forget what's it called.
The grocery store.
No, pastry. Patsy.
Patsy. Went to Patsy and we sat downstairs. And I sat down in one of those booths and I look across. I saw the most gorgeous man I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It was a mirror, baby. It was me.
That was me.
Yeah.
I was looking at.
I was so excited. I sat and looked at myself all night.
Yeah.
And I wrote
Dude,
it
thank
hard.
you for coming here. Guys, we are at the hour mark. We are going to wrap up. What I heard Tanner saying was some beautiful stuff. Stay in community. Be careful for some of the things that, take you into decompensation. But I appreciate you guys. Chad will be here next week, so it'll be a little spicier next week.
We'll ride it hard.
We're going to ride it hard. No, I appreciate you guys. See you next week.